Inbound or outbound marketing on LinkedIn? Well, a lot of people right now will tell you go with inbound only, meaning you provide value, you consistently post content on LinkedIn, and that's the way to go. Well, my approach is maybe slightly different because at sometimes I have generated leads for my own business using only outreach, and there are some times where I have been generating business leads for my own business using only content. But in my perception, the best would be the mix of or the combination of these two strategies. Of course, each one of these has its pros and cons. Let me go over with some of the pros and cons for each strategy. Let's start with inbound. So number one thing that I would kind of like to point out is when you start consistently putting content and valuable content on LinkedIn, that's really good for your personal branding. And today we live in an era where personal branding should be actually number one priority for many people. All right. The second advantage of inbound marketing is people actually value content, people like content, and people like to engage with content. And people also like to engage with people who are posting content on LinkedIn. So that's another good side of it. The other probably good thing that I can mention from my own experience, inbound leads are always easier to close, and usually the sales cycle is much shorter versus outbound. That's another good point to keep in mind. Also, let's not forget that according to LinkedIn's official statistics, if you start posting content consistently on LinkedIn, you will be ahead of the 99% of its users. And regarding the downsides, if you are planning on using only inbound, you should kind of plan at least minimum like 6 to 9 months or even up to a year, because like I got lucky probably and I got my first customer from only inbound during the first month, but this should not be kind of the rule of thumb. The other thing is that especially in the beginning, especially in the first, let's say 2-3 months, it's not really forecastable. Let's say I got a new word, forecastable, because you cannot really just post 3 times a week and let's say you got 20 qualified calls per month, and as soon as you start doing like 5 or 6, let's say, posts per week, the number not gonna double. So it's not really forecastable in the beginning. Later on, you might be able to find some, let's say, trends, etc. But especially in the beginning, you'll have to kind of, just put it there and hope that it's gonna work. The other thing is, it's not really scalable. And let me explain what I mean. Let's say in the case of outreach, you can connect to more people or you can use more profiles, etc. But in the case of content, usually you cannot really scale it too much. Maybe, of course, if you are posting, let's say, twice a week, if you start posting 6 times a week, you will feel a difference, but not necessarily 3 times more inquiries per month, let's say. So that's one of the downsides of the inbound marketing. When talking about outbound, the number one thing that I can mention, it's really more or less predictable. The results are forecastable because let's say after 1 month of doing outreach on LinkedIn, you'll already more or less know what's your acceptance rate, know what's your response rate, know what's your conversion rate. So after that, let's say if I do 500 connection requests per month, I will get this many booked conversations. So this is a really good thing as a business owner to understand, right, what are my expectations, right? The other thing is actually it is scalable. Well, scalable. What I mean by saying scalable is, or especially right now due to the limitations that LinkedIn is placing, meaning 100 connections per week. But the thing is, let's say you can use your clicks, your clicks can outreach to the other, let's say, buyer persona groups, right? So in this case, it will be not 400 connection requests, but it will be 800, 1200, 1600, whatever the case is. But this means using other profiles, you will be able to kind of scale it. Of course, it's not like unlimited scaling, but still it's scaling. And the other thing is, it's usually the results are in earlier, because again, you should not be expecting anything like within the maybe first month or first couple of weeks at least. But my point is, if in the case of inbound, I'm telling you, you need 6 to 9 months, here probably you need around a month, because after that, you already know what's working, what's not really working. However, outbound also has some downsides. Well, first of all, it's too much noisy right now regarding outbound part, because everybody right now is using outbound, everybody's outreaching, and a lot of people are pitching on LinkedIn. And in keeping that in mind, it's really difficult for us, like normal people who are not pitching to other businesses or business owners, to kind of differentiate ourselves or to stand out from the crowd, because a lot of people are doing it, and whenever you are messaging your prospect, they already think that you're gonna be pitching them. That's one of the downsides. The other problem is that in the case of inbound, you have really very low risk of getting banned or blocked on LinkedIn, but in the case of outbound, if you are not doing things correctly, there is a higher risk of getting blocked on LinkedIn or suspended from LinkedIn. So you should kind of keep that in mind. It's not really a downside, that's like a normal process, but in comparison with inbound marketing, when you place content and people come to you, well, in the outreach, you're gonna have to talk to them first, right? You're gonna have to be proactive. So compared to inbound leads, it is harder usually to close outbound leads. But I mean, that's part of the game. So to kind of really give you a summary of what I was just kind of saying, my approach is you should not select only outreach or only inbound, but you should try to have a really good strategy of a mix of the both. Because, well, first of all, even if you do not outreach to your potential customers, at least you need to connect with them. Why? Because let's say you are really placing a lot of valuable information on LinkedIn every day, etc. But if your ideal customer doesn't see those posts, I mean, they're not gonna help you much, right? So for that reason, minimum is connect with your ideal customers. Do not talk to them if you don't want to, but on top of that, also combine this with daily or minimum like 3 times a week posts. So that way people can see you, people can kind of get familiar with you. And the recent studies show that people need to see you anywhere from 23 to 30 times, meaning on LinkedIn, on their feeds, before they trust you without even kind of talking to you. So keep this in mind. I hope you kind of, I was able to give you the general idea of the, let's say, 2 strategies, the differences in really 2-3 minutes. I appreciate your time. Be safe, stay well, and yeah, by the way, if you like the video, also don't forget to subscribe to my newly created YouTube channel. I'll put the link down below. And that's it. Have a nice one. Talk to you later. Cheers.